Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we break down the latest and greatest Premier League action. Joining me in the studio today, it's Dukes with his handlebar in progress.
It's coming through. Slow and steady.
It definitely is. Let's hope, slow, the operative word there. Zach, you're a sad boy.
Sad boy hours. Sad boy hours for Gelab. Yep, Chelsea lost to Arsenal at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, but he's composed himself, he's gathered himself, and we're here to talk about said fixture. Now, Chelsea convincingly beaten at the Bridge. Arsenal consigning the Blues to 7th place in the table. But pretty poor 7 days, haven't they? Following that 4-1 loss to Brighton as well. So the negativity online, overwhelming at the moment. We're seeing some Potter out on the timeline. Chelsea fans, absolute head loss.
Yeah.
That's actually Arteta's third win at the Bridge on the bounce, by the way. So he's becoming a thorn in your side at home. Now the scoreline, close, Dukes, but reality was they were second best throughout, Chelsea, right? And let's quickly decide our winners and losers for today. And then we'll move on to the title question. We'll start to think about what Potter does moving forward when he has 1-2 transfer windows under his belt, because I think that is where we provide the value for the team at home. Not much to say about the performance, but we'll give it our best shout. Okay, let's do winners first then, Dukes, and you get to lead the charge, mate. Who impressed you in this 90?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, difficult to pick that many players. It wasn't an outstanding game. I don't think either side were at their best, particularly on the ball, but Arsenal were much, much better defensively, I would say, and crucial to that was William, Alan, Andre, Gabriel, Saliba.
Nice.
Got all his middle names out there.
Wow.
Anyway, he was brilliant alongside Gabriel. Gabriel got the goal in the end, of course, but I thought Saliba was probably the more composed. Yeah. He's been excellent this season. That continued this year. Or this game, sorry. I think both of them just physically dominated whoever came up against them. I think Aubameyang had 8 touches in the game. It's not really his game to drop deep, but whenever he ran in behind, they confidently dealt with everything. And even the few, nervy moments that Saliba had, occasionally on the ball, he'd instantly recover and clear any danger. And it was a really comprehensive defensive performance from Arsenal, and that allowed them to build. They weren't at their best on the ball, but Saliba was crucial.
Yeah, I thought they were brilliant out of possession, actually, and crucial to that, the positioning of Saliba, of Gabriel. They held that line really well, didn't they? They communicated really well throughout the game. Super tight stuff. He's starting to remind me a little bit of Virgil van Dijk in his pomp like 2-3 seasons ago,
Saliba.
where Arsenal were just like, let's just leave Saliba as the last man, and he will just eat up those yards, dashing across the pitch. There was a bit where he got to, I think it was Broja,
who is so quick.
Stuck him on his behind. Zach, you have now the unenviable task of picking a loser from the Chelsea side. Are you going to go for an individual, or are you going to be diplomatic and go for a collective?
I think the Chelsea attack in general was quite a big loser, and part of that is Kai Havertz. We're into his 3rd season now. And is it 3rd or 4th? But still, we're coming to a season now where it's really his time. Like, this is where we've got to start seeing this player. I think we can't really have the excuse of he's this young guy adapting to the league, or he's finding a new system. To be fair, maybe you do say he's played under several different managers, 3 different managers in this time already. But still, when he is kind of leading that line, and I know he was kind of partnered with Aubameyang. And to be fair, Aubameyang as well, as you mentioned, 8 touches, wasn't that great either. I thought when Broja came on, he was much better, or at least felt like a bit more danger was on the pitch when Broja was there. But yeah, I just think some of the decision-making from Havertz was a little bit poor today. He had the opportunity in the first half where he goes down the right flank and doesn't look up. The simple thing of just looking up, and if he does, he'll see Mason Mount's got kind of a clear pass. He just tries to get the ball into the box and no one's there at the back post.
There was the sort of half pass, half shot for Aubameyang as well when he was lurking at the back post. That looked like a really promising move.
For sure. And I don't want to necessarily single out Havertz, because I think in general the attack wasn't great. Chelsea had an XG of 0.2. Arsenal had 2 point something, right? And I think, as you mentioned, I think the scoreline maybe kind of flattered us. And actually the way Chelsea conceded their goal, you might say was a little bit unfortunate, not clearing it at the front post, but Arsenal were definitely deserving of the win and of at least 1 goal. My biggest issue is when I'm watching it, I just don't know where Chelsea's goals are going to come from and how they're going to be scored. Sometimes when it's getting, and I still think it's early days, obviously, of Potter and obviously trying to learn a new system. And I do agree that things that Tuchel and Potter are similar in ways, but they also are very different. And the way Chelsea over the past couple of years have created goals is through their fullbacks. And it's not a surprise to see Reece James and Chilwell out injured. and not have any creativity, which happened last season when Reece James and Chilwell were injured and Chelsea went for that really bad patch that really kind of put them out of the race of trying to go far in the league. And so yeah, I think at the moment it's just no real idea of what we're doing. We're going forward, like we're kind of looking for Mason Mount to try and get him to do something, but and then kind of looking for Sterling. And so in general, I feel like it's quite discombobulated.
Right. Okay. Okay, so for our losers, we're going to go with Chelsea's attack as a collective, with special emphasis on Kai Havertz's lack of progress or lack of impact at Premier League level.
Well, because I also think, like, as I said earlier, like, I think sometimes people do forget how much money Chelsea spent on Kai Havertz, like 70 odd million, and we're not seeing that result. And I think if I'm being completely honest with myself, and it came to the summer, and Bayern Munich or some club came in the summer and went, hey, here's £40 million for Kai Havertz, and he hasn't cracked on since then, or is understanding the Potter system very well. And I don't know, there were those rumours that Chelsea were going to be getting Nkunku in January as well. I would definitely be thinking about
be amenable to selling him.
And because also I think there is a player in there.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just not going to work out at Chelsea.
Okay.
But I think it could work out in another club for sure.
We'll open up on that in just a second, because we are going to start, I don't know, guessing at what Potter can do in the next couple of windows to sort of arrest these problems. Let's just shout out Arsenal before we move on to that, because we need to put some shine
100%.
on their performance. Like I said, brilliant out of possession, brilliant from a defensive standpoint. Jesus as well, Gabriel Jesus, 3 shots, 3 dribbles, 2 chances created, 4 tackles and interceptions as well.
Good,
like, admittedly should have scored that header, but his work rate contrasting pretty starkly with that of Aubameyang's, although we don't expect that from Aubameyang, but still chalk and cheese when you see it play out in the cold light of day. Without a goal in 9 games now, but I'm sure Arteta not overly concerned when he's bringing that to the team, what he brought today. Gabriel, like you said, I think sometimes maybe he is defending in the shadow of William Saliba, let's say, but was very, very good by his own right today. And Thomas Partey as well, brilliant in midfield. I thought he completed the most passes in the game with a 93% success rate as well. I thought he was great at evading the press. When Chelsea did look like they were going to maybe nick the ball in a promising area, Arsenal, a couple of slick moves, and they're on the attack, weren't they? All right, let's move on to the title theme then, and that is, how does Graham Potter change things, change the momentum? We can start with the midfield, because I assume that a centre mid will be top of his list. Kante, Jorginho, a year left on their contracts. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, injury prone, dragged off after 70 minutes in this game, pretty ineffectual. I mean, that's not representative of his season. He's been okay in patches. Kova still only started 4 Premier League games, like maybe can't be relied on across the course of a season owing to that fitness. Dukes, let's start with you then, mate. Where would you gravitate towards? Like maybe what leagues, what teams, what profile of player in January or in the summer?
I think this is more of a summer job, to be totally honest. I just can't see Chelsea managing to get the calibre of player in January that is willing to come in mid-season, particularly if they're not necessarily in the title mix. I mean, it doesn't look like they will be or fighting for trophies this year. I think there's going to be names like Jude Bellingham, there's going to be names like Declan Rice banded around. I think they might be quite difficult to secure, to be honest. I think someone like Enzo Fernandez from Benfica, who's had a phenomenal year so far, he could play that Jorginho role really effectively. His pass accuracy is superb. I think he's completing over 100 passes per game. And he's not particularly, withheld with it either. About 10 are going into the final third. He's been brilliant for Benfica alongside Florentino Luis this year. And then it's tricky. I think they could potentially get a star name in there, like someone like Frankie de Jong. You're still a little bit unsure about his Barcelona future. I think Barcelona would be willing to sell at some stage. He played yesterday against Almeria, grabbed a goal, but still not nailed down that regular starting spot. The only thing is Busquets looks like he's going to go to Inter Miami next summer, and maybe they see Frankie de Jong as someone that can fulfill that Busquets role, even though it's not his ideal game. But yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. I think if Chelsea look at it in the cold, hard light of day, Kante, you need to start moving on from Kante, as sad as that is. Probably one of the top 10 Premier League midfielders of all time, and especially on that wage as well. So there's going to be some hard decisions to be made.
Yeah. Well, ironically, the Spanish press have been saying that Barcelona want Kante to replace Busquets, and if that frees up, or if that makes them more amenable to selling Frankie de Jong, then it's a big win for Chelsea. I think that could be transformative, that move. We obviously saw them pursue him to the nth degree in the summer. Didn't quite pan out. What do you make of Deuce's comments? And then we'll move to the forward line.
Yeah, no, I think midfield is definitely something Chelsea will be looking at. I think they're going to continue with their their buys of young players. You saw that with Kante and Jorginho that they've bought in the summer. I think that, and he's someone that I actually think featured a lot more than I would have expected. And I think that's kind of the way they'll do things. Obviously, with the last-minute inquiry into Alvarez at Ajax, it wouldn't shock me if Chelsea went back in for him in January to try and get another guy in midfield. Chelsea's injuries this season and the past couple of seasons have been really, really bad, and especially to our midfield. And there are times where players are having to play with injuries. You're right, you can't rely on Kante anymore. Previously, maybe even before the season, if you'd asked me which one out of Jorginho and Kante I'd give a contract to for a year or two, I'd say Kante. Now I'm actually not so sure about that. He's just not there. He's not available enough you can't get enough minutes out of him to make it worth it. So I wouldn't be against giving Jorginho another contract, but with the idea of actually phasing him out and having him there as a rotation option when needed. You mentioned Jude, you mentioned Declan Rice. I think Rice is probably a lot more possible than Jude Bellingham, especially if Chelsea don't get Champions League football. That's another big one on trying to attract players and young players that are exciting, looking to go far. You're going to need Champions League football, so that will be key. But yeah, midfield will definitely be looking to recruit in because it's getting on currently. As for the attack, I think a lot of big decisions need to be made about certain players. And more so for their career as well. I've already mentioned Kai Havertz, but another one is Christian Pulisic. Another one is Callum Hudson-Odoi. There's no point in having these players, one, on big wages when they're not getting game time, and for themselves. Like, they are guys who have good potential, but need to be playing week in, week out. Look, Callum's obviously with Leverkusen is playing quite a lot, and I think has started decently. I think probably Potter will want to see what he's like, at least under his ownership, under his management, before he makes a real decision. But a decision has to be made about Christian Pulisic. He can't be a guy that keeps coming on off of the bench. A decision has to be made about Kai Havertz. You assume next season that by giving Brozier a 6-year contract, he will be the guy to lead the line, and you have Aubameyang as the guy that's on the bench, kind of essentially swapping roles how it is at the moment. Chelsea's links with Nkunku seem to be pretty solid. I think that will be a great addition. But if he comes in, someone has to go. Whether, as I said, whether that's Kai, whether that is Hakim Ziyech, another guy who doesn't even get a look in.
Wow, remember that guy.
Like, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. There's so many guys here where I think a lot of decisions need to be made, not just because of, as I said, their career and money, but also the way Chelsea want to play their football. You need to have your front. You look at the Arsenal front line, you can name those front four every single time. Odegaard in the middle, Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right, and Jesus through the middle. Chelsea's, if I went to you who's playing in Chelsea's front line tomorrow, maybe
You'd probably assume Mount would
Mount
be
for
the
sure,
guy,
maybe Havertz, probably Aubameyang, definitely Sterling. And so those two, it could be Brozier one week, it could be, wouldn't shock you one week, Ziyech has got a random start, Gallagher's now playing there. And so it's trying to find out which one, like the players that Potter wants, and it's just about commitment. And look, they gave Potter a 5-year contract. You don't do that, one, without expecting there's going to be bumps in the road, and this is obviously where Chelsea are at the moment, and two, with the expectation of, okay, he's going to take a season or two to get his players and find what he wants happening. So it's going to take time. As I said, as for what players, I like the Nkunku idea. I think that's really good. Chelsea are really keen on the Russian guy who I'm forgetting, Zakarian, I think his name is. They tried to get him in January, couldn't sort it out because of the visa and obviously the Russia stuff, which makes sense. So maybe he comes in, another young, promising winger. Possibly Chelsea go look to the Shakhtar Donetsk winger as well, Modric. So yeah, I think they will all follow those kind of things. Young, high potential, high profile, with the possibility of being a really exciting player. But yeah, it's going to be, I think there'll be a few more bumps in the road before we're there.
There we have it, a fairly comprehensive breakdown of what Potter can do in the coming windows. I really like Frenkie de Jong, Edson Alvarez, and Nkunku. That triumvirate wouldn't be a bad place to start, would it? Let us know how you would fix Chelsea and their current issues in the comments, and we will, of course, hit you up with a reply. Stay tuned for more winners and losers, but like this video and subscribe to the channel with notifications on to do us a solid, and we'll see you very soon.